I am the face of DESOTO.
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 I am a face of DESOTO.
I am a face of DESOTO.
I am a face of DESOTO.
I am the face of DESOTO.
I am a face of DESOTO.
I am the face of DESOTO.
It's time for DESOTO's groove. Right now, make your body move.
Come and go, come and go. Never know which way to go. Intuition got my mission. So let's flow. Come and go, come and go. Never know which way to go. Intuition got my mission. So let's flow.
Those of us that are in leadership positions today owe a tremendous debt of gratitude to our distinguished predecessors. And the lessons that we learn from our guests today will help us to better understand and shoulder the important responsibility that our residents have entrusted us with. And so thank you all for making DeSoto the great city that it is today and will continue to be in our future. And that future is a bright one.
Come and flow. Come and flow.
As DeSoto was first settled in 1847 as one of the oldest communities in North Texas, being named in honor of Thomas Hernando DeSoto Stewart, who was a doctor dedicated to the community. By 1885, DeSoto was home to approximately 120 people, a cotton gin, and a general store. And whereas, after World War II, DeSoto and surrounding areas began to grow, and in an effort to improve the inadequate water distribution system, residents were compelled to incorporate the town on February 17, 1949. A petition signed by 42 eligible voters was presented to the Dallas County Judge requesting an election for incorporation. And whereas the election was held on March 2nd, 1949, with 50 voters in favor of incorporation and 2 opposed. The results of the election were officially entered into the courts of the Dallas County Commissioner's Court on March 3rd, 1949, thereby creating the city of DeSoto. The newly incorporated city was less than 1 square mile in size. And whereas on March 15, 1949, Wayne A. Chowning was elected mayor, along with 5 council members, with the first city council meeting being held 2 days later on March 17, 1949. Whereas the city of DeSoto continued to thrive in business and in population, surpassing 30,000 in the 1990s. On June 11, 2006, the National League of Cities named DeSoto an All-America city, electing their first African-American mayor, Carl O. Sherman Sr. And their youngest mayor, Mayor Rachel L. Proctor, in 2021. And whereas the city continues to experience population and economic development growth, and today more than 56,000 people call the city of DeSoto home, and a community steeped in history and charting a new path forward.
So let's flow.
Program for at-risk kids, you know, I've always been an artist. So even when we were at Camp Hoblisel, I did art lessons, and just so happened I would come into the library with my sons, and we noticed there was a bunch of artwork in the corridor as you come down the ramp. And 1 year went by, I said, okay, this artist. 2 years went by, I said, okay, this artist too. Okay, 3 years ago, I was like, whose art is this? And I knew I had a body of work. So I had become friends with a lady named Kathy Jones, who was the one that oversaw everything we did with the camp. And I said, Kathy, can I ask you a question? How do I see about maybe, you know, not to offend whoever artwork that is, but maybe I could put some artwork up. She said, well, I'll tell you what, you need to get in contact with the director of the library. She said, I'll give you his number and I'll call him and tell him to expect you. So Kathy was very instrumental in helping me get with the library, make the connection. They wanted to see my work. And next thing I know, I was able to hang my work up. Because that other work had been up probably for about 3 years, it was, I think, refreshing. That work was beautiful too. But I think it was refreshing for people to come in and say, hey, there's a new show up. Well, being an artist who studied in New York and having the fame, you know, the infamous claim to fame that I have with working with artists and things of that nature. Having taught a young girl named Amanda Dunbar to paint, making $1 million on her work by the time she was 18, doing the Oprah Winfrey Show and painting for everyone from Beyonce to President Bush. I knew that when you create artwork, you create, you know, based off of expression or what you're feeling. But I wanted my artwork as a community activist and child advocate to convey some of the feelings and ideas that maybe I couldn't express verbally. Maybe if I could do it visually and have an impact, I think it would make my work scream and not just, ooh, this is nice. So I developed a technique, especially when I did Black people, of not really using a lot of black. I use, as a foundation on the canvas, I would always prepare the canvas with like an orange brown wash. Then as I build and I sketch the figures out, I would use a yellow base. And then on top of the yellow, I would add orange. And on top of the orange, I would add red. On top of the red, I would add brown. And this gave a warmer presentation. So as the viewer looked at my work, warm colors invite you in. And I wanted the warmth to be on each in each portraiture. So as you look, if I painted children, if I painted adults, I felt like the warmth gave their bodies or gave the composition or the subjects their humanity. And what I wanted to do, I didn't want you to look at a painting of Black people and think derogatorily. I didn't want you to look at them and think about terms that are slurs. I wanted you to look at the painting and say, these are human beings. And I wanted an emotional effect. I wanted an emotional connection.
The history of Nance Farm is pretty cool for DeSoto. It's our only real historic home that still exists, unfortunately. It was built by Ottaway Bird Nance in the 1858 timeframe. He came to Texas from Illinois and settled here. From about Hampton Road to Westmoreland Road in DeSoto, that was the Nance Farm. And it was huge, obviously, back then. The barn is the most historic piece of structure on that property. It has the hand-hewn logs that you can still see, the square nails. It's very historic. And then the house was built after that. And I've been told that it's one of the oldest houses in North Texas that's still on its original property. They turned the home to face east because initially I think it faced south or something, and to get the nice east breezes through the house, so they turned it. And there's a funny story about one of the Nance grandmother, and I'm not remembering her name, but she didn't want them to move the house, and she sat on the front porch the whole time while they did it in her rocker, and she was so upset and frustrated that they were bothering her house. But it's a very beloved property for DeSoto. We're so happy to have it here, and it has a historical marker on it. The Nances lived in that house until the 60s, I believe, a Nance descendant. 1976 was when the city purchased it. We had it for about 10 years and then sold it again back into private ownership, where it stayed for several years. And in the early 2000s, the owner fell on hard times, and it was going into foreclosure. And the city purchased it finally in about 2005, I believe. But it also was in city hands back in the early days when I was a young mother, and for the sesquicentennial in 1976, the city purchased it that year, and that was the home of our City Fest, which was an event that they did back then. It was used kind of as a public meeting facility. It had a public room kind of in the back where, you know, the book club could have meetings there, and ladies organizations, PTA, and it had a swimming pool, believe it or not. And it was the city swimming pool for a while when I was, you know, like I said, a young mother. But about 10 years into it, I think the city was very money conscious, so sold it back into private ownership. Mayor Waddle at the time, he said, no, this can't happen. We've got to keep our Nance Farm in the community. And so he mounted an effort with the other city council members to purchase the property. They were able to secure a grant from the Texas Parks and Wildlife Foundation and to begin the restoration of it. But one thing the city's doing now is we have come up with a plan to kind of make it a place for the arts.
me that? Tom Anello came by the flea market, and he said, "Jimmy, I have a bacon spot down here on Hampton. I mean, on Beltline, and I have a complex there. Said, you need a storefront. You know, you do real good here. You need a storefront." So I thought about it, and Wanda Moody was another customer of mine, and she said, "Jimmy, my husband is in with Roy R, and they have a building here on Hampton." And so I said, "Okay, I'll go by and take a look." And one day when the lady told me that they were going to be closing the bazaar, so I said, "Well, I need to find a place to stay because I want to stay here in DeSoto." And I just decided to come down and take a look. Fell in love with Tom Anello's place. It was just like it was made for me. So I stayed there 5 years at Tom Anello's. Then I needed something bigger because I outgrew the little spot. I started across the street over here. There was a vacant spot there. So I started there, that little shopping strip. And I was there for like, I think about 15 years. And then I moved across the street because Mr. Larson needed that whole shopping center. So I moved across the street. And everything worked out perfectly. And we've been here now on this side for 15 years, and we're yet growing. Seems like we need more space, you know, but I think I'm gonna retire here. This is it. This is gonna be the last straw. This is my space, and the people are so nice and friendly. They yet come back to see Jimmy's Watch Repair Shop. Now, not only do they buy stuff, but we share the word. We share scriptures in the Bible. You know, we talk to kids. We get so many kids come through that we get a chance to talk to them, let them know about. Thank you, sir. Let them know about the business, how they can get started in business, and they listen. You know, so we just enjoy.
Your family's been on this property for over 100 years? Tell me exactly how many. Do you remember?
120, Kathy.
120. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And your great-great-grandparents, the Trees, Crawford and Minerva, their marriage license was the first recorded marriage license in Dallas County.
That's correct.
Yeah. How does that make you feel that this has always been your home place?
Well, it's history. You know, it makes you have a lot of fond memories of history, and you've watched this grow and change over time. You know, and of course, I'm in my 80s, and I've seen a lot of it, and with the exception of the growth, with the exception of the 30 years that I spent in the Air Force, in and out. And today, it's rapidly growing, and it's exciting, and yet we're losing a lot of our places that you remember and what went on agricultural wise and things like that. And there are a lot of nice subdivisions being built, and nice homes, and are in a great location in proximity to Dallas and other municipalities that are close to us. And but it's not only DeSoto growing, it's a whole area.
No, and you're a perfect example of this. DeSoto's history is we were farmers back around the turn of the century.
Most people were in the ag business, yes.
Yes, absolutely. And your family, no exception. And you still farm this property.
Yeah, we're still
running cattle. Do you have crops, or do you just...
No, primarily just beef cattle on this place, Kathy. We're to the point today, and infrastructure-wise, and the way it's developed and changing, that to really farm a piece of property, and if you've got different locations, it's not all in one place, intact, the whole place. moving equipment up and down the road, because today the size of equipment it's huge, and unless the infrastructure is there to permit you to do that, so you don't really get involved with things other than perhaps cattle or one crop or something like that, and you know, and that's just to keep the country as it is, as it was when you were on it, and you try to be environmentally recognized that grasslands and things like that filter water when we get rains and runoffs are very important to the environment, but those things are all changing, and so, you know, I'm just really pleased that I'm still have some open space around me, and I think a lot of people that drive by here kind of appreciate that too, from the standpoint it's not all in houses.
I totally agree. Okay, so take us back to when you and Roy Orr were running around this town when y'all were in elementary school. Take us back to what you did back in those days.
That's where we really, Roy and I really connected, even though we were related as a distant cousin, was in school, because back in that time we did not live in the center of DeSoto or even.
You're out in the country, and you're still out in the country.
We're still in the country.
You're still out in the country.
So school was a new adventure. You know,
Beltline and Hampton was considered the crossroads. That's what they called it back around the turn of the century.
That's correct.
And so that's really where the city was, Beltline and Hampton.
That was DeSoto. Yes, it was.
And the school was right there on Beltline.
And then surrounding DeSoto were farms and things like that, you know. But yes, that was DeSoto, and the school was just down Hampton there. I'm sorry, it was down Beltline. And where the existing building is today for the administration, that was built by the WPA back in the 40s.
And it's a beautiful building.
And
a little schoolboy on with his books over his shoulder.
The original school we started in was a school building that I think it had been in a fire at one time, and the upper portion of it was gone, but it was I vaguely remember it was just really close quarters, you know.
The old one-room schoolhouse,
but we didn't have many kids there in school, you know, so you could have first, second, and third grade all in one room, or however they had to structure it.
Right. So we were speaking with your cousin, Miss Winona Bullard, the other day, and she said that there were four girls and one boy or something like that in her class, and that was her class.
I heard her say that.
So four girls and one boy, I think.
And by bunching classes together, you know, you were able to overhear the class ahead of you, so when you got to that grade, you had
to jump on them, huh?
So it was.
I always wondered how that worked.
It worked out well, really.
Teach that many different ages in one classroom, but they did it.
But there were a lot of children there, so you know, it all worked out.
It was more one-on-one, I guess.
Yeah.
Welcome to Grow DeSoto Marketplace, our premier shopping place where arts run abound. It's just a great place to go. They got the leggings to come with them. Hi, this is Rolanda. I'm with Staple Styles and Grow DeSoto Marketplace, one of our wonderful, wonderful venues. Come out and buy some things. Great quality clothing, and it's comfortable and it breathes in the Texas heat. Woohoo! Look at these. Just beautiful. Just beautiful. Hi, this is JS International Grill at DeSoto Marketplace. This is the owner. Come and enjoy some of their wonderful food.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Janie. This is JS International Grill. We are touching with Jamaican food, Caribbean food, like a mix of French food, and our client also create their own food. So we have stuffed turkey leg, jerk chicken, salmon is the best one to die for. We got shrimp. We sell a lot of shrimp, like 10 boxes every week. So come enjoy and ask for me.
This is our Thai food restaurant in the Grove DeSoto Marketplace. So if you want Thai food, this is the best. Hi, we're still in Grove DeSoto Marketplace. This is one of the entrepreneurs here. Please come down to Grove DeSoto Marketplace. We should have standing room only.
When we started the tax office, we didn't have taxes when we first moved here. We built a sewer plant, and so we needed to pay for it, and that's when we started taxes in the early 60s. And we had an appraiser who appraised the properties, and our first tax assessor collector was Janelle Hogue, who I think she was only that for a couple of years, and they decided that she had too many jobs, too much work to do, and so they gave me the title, and I spent the rest of my years working for DeSoto as a tax assessor collector. And of course, we had to go to Austin to do take tests and study and pass tests where we were qualified to do the job. I learned the job. I liked the job. I felt like I did a very good job of when I was working. And I retired in 1992. And that's when the appraisal districts took over. They took it from the cities and the schools, and now it's all it's done by a county. We did not have computers when I started to work, and I typed the tax roll many years on a manual Royal typewriter, and you talk about hurting. I was a good typist. I had learned how to type, but I can remember going home, my shoulders would be so sore. And it was several years before we started getting computers and typewriters that were electric. And that was really wonderful. So, but yes, I typed many tax rolls on the manual typewriter. When we put in our sewer and water lines, a lot of the lines were dug by the volunteers in the city. We had our first water bills for several years was just $4 because we didn't have meters where they read them all the time. But then when the tax roll started and we started bringing in tax money, we had money for the water and the sewer, and people really enjoy that.
Your will be done.
DeSoto is community.
DeSoto is one family.
Home.
DeSoto is transforming. DeSoto is my sanctuary.
This is home.
DeSoto is a small city with big city advantages.
Faith in God and love DeSoto. Support DeSoto. Thank you. I love you.
I am the face of DeSoto.
I am the face of DeSoto.
I am the face of DeSoto.